You're watching live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Celebrating friendship, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi cheers India-UAE bond at Ahlan Modi event in Abu Dhabi. Will inaugurate BAPS temple in Abu Dhabi today. Ahead of NATO meet, US President Biden condemns dangerous Trump NATO remarks, calls for Ukraine funding. Amid heavy rains and flooding, millions of Indonesians vote for a new president as the world's third largest democracy aspires to become a global economic powerhouse. And suspense in Pakistan ends. Former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to be candidate for Pakistan's Prime Minister. Zardari calls for reconciliation. Indian opener Smriti Mandana moves up to 4th spot in ICC Women's ODI batting rankings. 27-year-old Mandana surpassed South Africa's Laura Wolvaert. And on to the details now. Energetic and jubilant chanting, lively traditional dances, all infused with a sense of pride in Indian identity. An encapsulated atmosphere of the Ahlan Modi event held in Abu Dhabi on Tuesday evening. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the members of the Indian diaspora in Abu Dhabi during the Ahlan Modi event. PM Modi, who is on a two-day visit to the United Arab Emirates, congratulated the members of the Indian diaspora for turning up in such a large number. While addressing the Indian diaspora at Ahlan Modi event in Abu Dhabi, PM Modi said India-UAE's friendship is as strong in space as it is on the land.
भारत-यूएई की दोस्ती जितनी जमीन पर मजबूत है, उतना ही उसका परचम अंतरिक्ष में भी लहरा रहा। मैं इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन में 6 महीने बिताने वाले पहले अमीरात के एस्ट्रोनॉट सुल्तान अल नयादी को भारत की तरफ से बधाई देता हूं। उन्होंने इंटरनेशनल योगा डे और इंडिपेंडेंस डे पर भारत को स्पेस से शुभकामनाएं भेजी। इसके लिए भी मैं उन्हें धन्यवाद देता हूं।
And at the Ahlan Modi event in Abu Dhabi, PM Modi said, our relation is that of talent, innovation and culture.
आज 21वीं सदी के इस तीसरे दशक में भारत और यूएई का रिश्ता एक अभूतपूर्व ऊंचाई पर पहुंच रहा है। हम एक दूसरे की प्रोग्रेस में पार्टनर हैं। हमारा रिश्ता टैलेंट का है, इनोवेशन का है, कल्चर का है। बीते समय में हमने हर दिशा में अपने संबंधों को नई ऊर्जा दी है। हम दोनों देश साथ मिलकर चले हैं, साथ मिलकर आगे बढ़े। आज यूएई भारत का तीसरा बड़ा ट्रेड पार्टनर है। आज यूएई 7वां बड़ा इन्वेस्टर है। हम दोनों देश ईज ऑफ लिविंग और ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस दोनों में बहुत अधिक सहयोग कर रहे हैं।
Well, lauding UPI, PM Modi said that UPI will be launched soon in UAE. With its launch, Indian diaspora will be able to easily transfer money back home.
हमने यूएई के साथ अपने रुपे कार्ड स्टैक को शेयर किया है। इससे यूएई को अपना डोमेस्टिक कार्ड सिस्टम डेवलप करने में मदद मिली है। और जानते हैं, भारत के सहयोग से बने कार्ड सिस्टम का यूएई ने क्या नाम रखा है? यूएई ने नाम रखा है जीवन। कितना खूबसूरत नाम दिया है यूएई ने। जल्द ही यूएई में भी यूपीआई शुरू होने वाला है। इससे यूएई और भारतीय अकाउंट्स के बीच सीमलेस पेमेंट संभव हो पाएगी। इससे आप भारत में अपने परिवार के लोगों को और आसानी से पैसे भेज पाएंगे।
And at the Alan Modi event in Abu Dhabi, PM Modi said, today the goal of every Indian is to make India a developed country by 2047.
दुनिया का वो देश जिसकी अर्थव्यवस्था बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही है, वो देश कौन सा है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो स्मार्टफोन डेटा कंज्यूम करने में नंबर 1 है? दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो ग्लोबल फिनटेक एडॉप्शन रेट में नंबर 1 है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जहां सबसे ज्यादा मिल्क प्रोडक्शन होता है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जहां इंटरनेट यूजर्स के मामले में नंबर 2 पर है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो दुनिया का दूसरा सबसे बड़ा मोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरर है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जहां दुनिया का तीसरा सबसे बड़ा स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जो अपने पहले ही प्रयास में मंगल तक पहुंच गया? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो देश कौन सा है जिसने चंद्रमा के साउथ पोल पर अपना झंडा गाड़ दिया है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो कौन सा देश है जो एक बार में 100 सैटेलाइट भेजने का रिकॉर्ड बना रहा है? हमारा भारत। दुनिया का वो कौन सा देश है जिसने अपने दम पर 5G टेक्नोलॉजी विकसित करके सबसे तेज रोल आउट किया है? हमारा भारत। साथियों, भारत की उपलब्धि हर भारतीय की उपलब्धि है।
And Prime Minister Modi is going to participate in the World Government Summit 2024 in Dubai today. He'll be the guest of honor and deliver the keynote address at the summit.
World Government Summit is some kind of a confluence of global leaders. I would say, in general, thought leaders.
Okay.
Whether it is political thought leaders or intellectual thought leaders, technical thought leaders, they all assemble here. The Prime Minister will be the guest of honor on the 14th of this month at the World Government Summit. The last time this honor was bestowed on him was in 2018.
Yes.
And perhaps he's the only world leader who has been guest of honor twice.
And later on the day, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate a Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi. Meghna Dev reports for more.
In the beautiful desert expanse of Abu Dhabi's Abu Mureka district is this structure emerging from the sands. This structure is also now being known as the lotus in the desert because it's carved out of pink sandstone. Italian marbles and much more has been carved so that it gets this beautiful shape, and it's a testimony, it's a testament to timeless craftsmanship and obviously the Indian intricacy in terms of art, culture, tradition is all depicted on the walls of this beautiful BAPS Hindu temple. So I will also take you inside to show you the intricacy of the art that's depicted inside the temples under the 7 spires that make this temple as beautiful as it meets the eye. We are inside the BAPS Hindu temple, the highly anticipated temple where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming, and we'll be inaugurating it on 14th of February on his visit to UAE. To show you around, my camera person will pan for you and show you the beautiful visuals of this temple, the height, the depth and the intricacy of the art, craftsmanship, which is a testament to what India has to offer in terms of its crafts, timeless crafts that has been depicted here. We obviously see this beautiful structure. When generally people visit Abu Dhabi, this structure transcends them from the general Abu Dhabi in terms of luxury hotels, racing car arenas and much more, to beautiful spiritual place and everything that depicts Indian craftsmanship, Indian culture, Indian tradition and more. With my colleague Ashwini Mishra and camera person Pramod Negi, this is Meghna Dev, 4DD India from Abu Dhabi.
And the magnificent BAPS temple, the largest in West Asia, is now ready. It sits like a lotus amidst sand dunes. Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the temple on Wednesday. Meghna Dev spoke to Vishal Patel, a volunteer at the temple.
We are inside the BAPS Hindu temple, the highly anticipated temple where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming, and we'll be inaugurating it on 14th of February on his visit to UAE. Vishal, can you talk to us and tell us more on what are the preparations going around, and what we see is such a majestic view of this temple?
The culmination of what we've seen, the support that we've been given for this temple to be constructed has been phenomenal. And now we've seen everyone really working hard to see the culmination where our Guru Mahant Swami Maharaj is going to be here, and we're going to be joined by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And you can see there's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement, and we're really proud to showcase the unity between the UAE and India. This is the first stone temple in the whole of the Middle East, and it's the largest temple in Western Asia. So to see such a magnificent temple, when you're really up close, it almost feels like you're actually in India. It's only when you go outside and you see the wider perimeter of the...
Many people have been telling us that the 7 spires are actually one of the special attractions, we can say, or one of the specialities of this temple. What do you have to say? Because we have been seeing that gods from different parts of India, their idols have been brought in here.
What makes it very unique is the way that it's been constructed. If you look at the 7 shikhars that you have here, the 7 spires, they actually pay homage to the UAE. They represent each of the 7 emirates. And that's for us to say thank you to the UAE, which is our home for many, many years, for giving this land. Now, within this temple, what differentiates it from many other temples that you find around the world is the unity and the harmony that you will see. We've got murtis coming from the north, south, east and west. We have murtis coming from Tirupati. So Tirupati Balaji's murti is as authentic because it's been provided by the Tirupati Trust. Similarly, when you go to Puri, the Jagannath Ji murti is coming from Puri itself. So it's as authentic as you would find. So every Indian, every Hindu, and even well-wishers who want to visit will have a taste of India when they come to this mandir.
Absolutely. So when we call it a spiritual sanctuary, it definitely stands ground on what it is being called. We obviously see this beautiful structure. When generally people visit Abu Dhabi, this structure transcends them from the general Abu Dhabi in terms of luxury hotels, racing car arenas and much more, to beautiful spiritual place and everything that depicts Indian craftsmanship, Indian culture, Indian tradition and more. With my colleague Ashwini Mishra and camera person Pramod Negi, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Abu Dhabi.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Badminton Asia Team Championships 2024 underway. India to face China today in both men's and women's team. US forces said that they have seen a reduction in the Houthis' activity over the last 60 days.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers.
Watch Changemakers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on to some international news. NATO defense ministers now will meet in Brussels today with a focus on bolstering support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's ongoing aggression. The discussions will also center on the potential rise in defense spending across the 31-member alliance. DD India's Ishan Garg reports from Brussels on the latest developments.
The defense ministers' meeting over 2 days is expected to set the stage for a NATO summit later in the year in Washington. On Wednesday, NATO members, along with representatives from 23 other nations, are expected to meet to discuss advancing more support to Ukraine. The 54-nation Ukraine Defense Contact Group, also known as the Ramstein Group, aims to aid Kyiv militarily. Though NATO hasn't sent troops to Ukraine, which is not a NATO member, it has helped Kyiv with training and equipment since Russia's full-scale invasion 2 years ago. This meeting is now crucial as intelligence agencies in Estonia are warning that Russia could double its military presence along the NATO border within the next decade. On Thursday, NATO ministers will meet for a second time. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who was hospitalized due to a, quote, emergent bladder issue, isn't attending in person. He is expected to join virtually, though, as member nations mull over boosting spending on defense. The meeting of NATO defense ministers comes at a time when Ukraine is urging for more military aid, and concerns are growing in Europe about the U.S. pulling away from the alliance if Donald Trump is elected as president later this year. European leaders say NATO is the backbone of the continent's defense architecture. But some are also calling for a European defense alliance, one that isn't reliant on the US. This comes after US presidential hopeful Donald Trump said the US should not support NATO countries that are not spending enough on their own military capabilities. Brushing aside these comments, NATO says member nations remain committed to each other's defense. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
And President Joe Biden on Tuesday commented about NATO by his likely 2024 election opponent Donald Trump, calling them dangerous and un-American, and saying they raised the stakes for the U.S. Congress to approve new funding to support Ukraine. At the White House, Biden sharply rebuked Trump's comment made over the weekend, calling into question U.S. willingness to support members of the Western Defense Alliance if they were attacked. Biden said Trump's comment made it more urgent that Congress pass pass his long-stalled funding request to support Ukraine's defense against Russia. Biden said failing to support Ukraine war funding would amount to support for Russian President Vladimir Putin, adding that his attacks may move beyond Ukraine's borders deeper into Europe. And the White House pressed the U.S. House of Representatives to move swiftly on the $95.34 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan passed by the Senate on Tuesday.
I think today's a pretty optimistic sign that it got through the Senate. It sends messages, if we don't get this done, it sends messages not just to allies and partners, but to potential adversaries as well, that the United States can't be counted on, that we're not interested in being a leader on the world stage.
Well, U.S. forces said they have successfully protected 2,000 merchant vessels that have transited through the Red Sea. U.S. Navy Commander Mark McGuire said the U.S. forces have seen a reduction in the Houthis' activity over the last 60 days. Houthi militants in Yemen have repeatedly launched drones and missiles against international commercial shipping since mid-November. The attacks have prompted several companies to halt Red Sea journeys and opt for a longer and more expensive route around Africa. And State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said the United States is reviewing reports that Israel has harmed civilians in the war under a set of guidelines aimed at ensuring countries receiving U.S. arms conduct military operations in line with international humanitarian law on Tuesday.
We do seek to thoroughly assess reports of civilian harm by authorized recipients of U.S. provided defense articles around the world, including under the Civilian Harm Incident Response Guidance, the CHIRG. We can't comment on the specifics of ongoing reviews, but as we have said before, we are reviewing incidents in the current conflict according to the process set out in the CHIRG. That process is not intended to function as a rapid response mechanism. Rather, it is designed to systematically assess civilian harm incidents and develop appropriate policy responses to reduce the risk of such incidents occurring in the future and to drive partners to conduct military operations in accordance with international humanitarian law.
Further, Miller said U.S. is exploring all available alternatives to sustain aid in Gaza, despite the possibility that Congress may pass legislation barring funding for United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestine refugees.
As you know, we have suspended our funding. I know other countries have done the same. I know we've done that in good faith because we think it's important to see the results of the investigation, and it's a legitimate thing for other countries to want to wait and see the results of the investigation and how UNRWA responds to that investigation as well. But of course, we are always looking at all available alternatives.
Well, Russia's parliament will vote on the 21st of February on suspending Moscow's OSCE participation, Vyacheslav Volodin, Speaker of the Russian Parliament Duma, announced on Tuesday. Volodin described the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly an organization absolutely lacking independence. The OSCE, which counts Ukraine, the US and Russia among its 57 members, is the successor to a Cold War-era organization for Soviet and Western powers to engage. Both chambers of the Russian Parliament, the Duma and the Federation Council will vote simultaneously on suspending participation and on stopping Moscow's payments to the OSCE, Volodin added. And Ukraine Defense Minister Rustem Umerov and newly appointed Armed Forces Commander Alexander Syrsky discussed Kyiv's military plans for 2024 with the Supreme Commander of the NATO Armed Forces in Europe and the Commander of the Security Assistance Group, Ukraine, Umerov said on Tuesday. Colonel General Syrsky, who has led Ukraine's ground forces since 2019, was promoted to Commander of the Armed Forces last week as the war with Russia nears its third year. He replaced Valery Zaluzhny. The parties also discussed Ukraine's need for more electronic warfare equipment to combat Russian drones and the importance of rotating the fighters on the front lines, Umerov added. And Indonesia is voting today to choose not only a new president and vice president, but also parliamentary and local representatives. The presidency is being contested by the current defense minister, Prabowo Subianto, and two former governors, Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo. More than 200 million of the 270 million population are eligible to vote. About 20,000 national, provincial and district parliamentary posts will be contested by tens of thousands of candidates. Around 10,000 hopefuls from 18 political parties are running for the National Parliament's 580 seats alone. Meanwhile, residents of the Demak Residency in central Java in Indonesia will not be voting for their next president in the nation's presidential election, as their polling stations and homes are submerged in water flooding. Voting has been delayed for the residents of the sub-district and the surrounding villages, which are flooded, affecting at least 21,000 voters, according to the National Disaster Mitigation Agency. Well, in Pakistan, former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is set to retake his position as the next premier, while leading a new coalition alliance formed between different parties after national elections last week returned a hung parliament. The Pakistan People's Party, PPP, announced its support to Sharif's party on Tuesday to form a minority government. This ended the stalemate after inconclusive elections in the nuclear-armed nation led to days of political uncertainty. Shehbaz Sharif belongs to his brother Nawaz Sharif's Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, PMLN, which is the largest recognized party with 80 seats, and PPP is second with 54. Together, the two parties have enough for a simple majority in the 264-seat legislature. The co-chairman of the PPP, former President Asif Ali Zardari, told a news conference his party expects former Premier Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf to be part of a reconciliation process. An Indian opener, Smriti Mandana, on Tuesday jumped 2 spots to become world number 4 in ICC Women's ODI batting rankings. The 27-year-old from Mumbai surpassed South Africa's Laura Wolvaert, who slumped to 5th place after a colourless show in the ODI series against Australia. England's Nat Shiver Brunt, Sri Lanka's Chamari Athapattu and Australia's Beth Mooney occupy the top 3 positions in the batting chart, which also has Indian skipper Harmanpreet Kaur at the 10th place. Mandana, who is set to represent the Royal Challengers Bangalore in the Women's Premier League, last played ODIs in the bilateral series against Australia, where she made 63 runs at an average of 31.50. Well, the Badminton Asia Teams Championship 2024 are presently underway in Shah Alam in Malaysia. Indian women's team faces China in the first match of the group stages. The return of 2-time Olympic medalist PV Sandhu will significantly boost the team's strength. Meanwhile, India's men's team campaign will also kick off on Wednesday, where they will take on China in their opening encounter. The team is led by world number 7 H.S. Pranoy in the singles category and the world number 1 pair of Chirag Shetty and Swatswa Saraj in the doubles events. They also have former world number 1 Kidambi Srikanth and Lakshya Sen, among others. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Nipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.